realized when we're talking about the budget. You cannot be excluding these facts when looking at the whole picture. So I just wanted to bring that out for discussion, or at least for revealing.
So essentially, these are mills simply that we're providing them above and beyond what we actually give them in money. We provide this assistance to them.
Correct. Yeah. It used to be that the sheriff's department actually had their own janitorial staff. And it didn't work so well. This works a whole lot better with Mike and Eric, because they actually have been able to find some issues and correct them before they've become issues, which is a huge cost savings. When you have it all in contract, a guy from Helena doesn't necessarily know that the sound coming from the roof is a belt that's ready to blow. Mike and Eric know that because they go up and they listen every single morning to that stuff. So having that in the general fund has been, because they do so much countywide, has been a huge cost savings for the county. There's another graph I did too that I want to share with you. I just have to find it somewhere here. I guess I didn't do it for the general fund. What I had was a graph that showed that even with the COLA, the increase in the general fund is not to the personnel costs. It's actually to loss of revenue. So it's mostly operations that are going up, and I can show you that with some other just individual department graphs. So here's, sticking with the general fund, here's a county attorney graph, just because we're talking about the trial as being one of the things that's putting us out of whack in the general fund. So what this one is two things. There's 2 pages that you should do. I'll get you the second page here in just a second, but that's the actual full budget, and you can see how much it's been climbing from year to year to year. So here's kind of the same information. But I have personnel actually taken out because I think this is significant. 2 years ago, we had an issue with the public health department where we ended up with staff leaving and we had to bail it out. We put over $100,000 into public health. This year, the budget's for $55,000. Teresa has not only brought in last year $10,000 more than budgeted for, but she's cut her budget, her expenses by $45,000. And she's got another $20,000 in grants that she's applied for this year. I'm going to show you that graph too, but conversely, county attorney, we've given last year a 1% COLA and this year 2.5%. When you look at the overall expenses, that adds up to being a drop in the bucket because you've got to look at operations too. Personnel is just a part of the budget. County attorney, when Corey, his very first year with us, the next year, that June, the budget shot up by 13.8%. Then last year, by 11.6% in personnel only. This year, by 11.2% in personnel only. That's a $3 per hour increase for his staff. Then it was adding to the staff, and this year it's adding to the staff. Adding hours. This is one of the things that is hitting us so hard. and it's aside from the trial. So one of the things I would like to talk about is page 2, and that is the grant. We forgot a big piece of the Victim Witness Advocate grant, and that is the match. That's coming out of the general fund. The grant is excellent. It's a 2-year grant, that's a huge jump. The match comes out of the general fund, that's one of the reasons that we have such a huge increase. So it wasn't necessarily money saved, it's money shifted. That's the big difference. So I'm not sure with this that we can continue to afford anything additional to the 8-hour-a-week secretary that we originally budgeted for. I think what we need to do is save this match and not add to it, because that's essentially what we're doing, is doubling the match by saying that the grant saved and didn't actually have any cost associated. We cannot afford the secretary. And we've got to get some kind of a rein in on the county attorney's spending. The blue is just the personnel costs. The orange is operations. You can see that's fairly steady, not really, it's up and down. Gray is both added together and yellow is revenue. And it's just the non-tax revenue. So it's his interlocal, the state share, and then it's including the CDs. Now we balance it with the property tax revenue, but that is just, it's finite. We cannot continue to just spend it. Well, we don't have any more. Any questions on all this yet?
Does this operations of 118,300, that includes trial expenses, right? That
Yeah.
we're budgeting for, there's an extra 100,000.
Yeah. Yep.
So
No.
do all of these increases happen with, a lot of these increases don't happen without the trial, or do they? Even as 217 going from 217 to 241?
That happens anyway because, it doesn't have to, but what we did is we hired, or authorized Corey to hire a deputy county attorney at $75,000. So regardless of the trial, that's still in there. Now, our deal is, for the duration of the trial, so if it ends, then that position is cut.
If that position is cut, then the secretary goes away irregardless.
I think it needs to, I just don't think we can afford it. And we can talk about, our county attorney's department is far more staffed than other ones our same size and value around the state. Unless there's another source of funding, this is not sustainable. We can come up with a plan for this trial this year, but we've got to look at some of these costs and cut even those.
So then you've got this victim to witness grant. Are we able to roll any of that into this trial at all? I mean, wouldn't Brooks' victim grant apply to the victims in this trial, so she could work on the victims in this trial as a victim's witness advocate on this trial?
Yes.
So would that be enough to cover those other secretarial expenses that we were looking at?
It could be. Board of Crime Control gave secretarial grants to a number of counties. Broadwater County didn't even submit one.
And they know that grant no longer exists.
It exists, but it was given out already. The deadline was January 1st, into December. And the decisions were made at our last meeting, which was in June. So it's too late.
So is the AG staff that's helping with this Bears trial, are they supplying a secretary or just an attorney?
Just 2 attorneys. And we also had an attorney assisting us from Missoula, too, don't forget.
But we have no clerical backup for them.
Not just, yes, we do. We do. A lot of counties have one of 2 things, and I gave you that graph too before. They either have a paralegal or a deputy county attorney. We have both. My argument is, I believe the secretarial could be handled by Kelsey, which has been discussed a number of times. And then also, there's staff already there that could actually pick up whatever slack there is. And it's just a monetary thing, we just simply don't have the money. No other department has grown as much as the county attorney's department. The county shrunk by 1 FTE. County attorney is looking at an increase of 1.5 this year, not even including previously.
So if that gets into the position where we've got all the legal staff in here, but we don't have enough clerical backup for them, can we pull that money from somewhere to hire that person?
Where?
We don't have any excess funds left over anywhere to.
We're just trying to get to a
And
zero.
we can't get a grant to back that up anywhere in time to do any good.
Corey could apply for one this year if he wanted to. We've got Nicole, who is chomping at the bit to write grants. I'm not gonna say we don't have clerical though. We have 2 people who've done secretarial or the clerical work for that office for years. They have changed their duties to full-time victim witness advocate and full-time paralegal. We've provided the avenue for an 8-hour, perhaps a 16 if he can work with the JP on that. But to do much more than that, I just don't see where the money's gonna come from. And I think it's a waste so that we can make sure that people don't have to do clerical work. It's I don't know how much there's going to be, but this commission does our own clerical work. We don't have somebody else doing it for us. I would argue that other elected officials are in that same boat. We could all do some of our own clerical work. I'm going to show you 2 budgets, just for comparison's sake. Justice of the Peace, who really should be on a parallel with County Attorney and District Court, has cut his budget to less than the actual in 2016, and barely more than 2015. And again, Public Health cut it to less than 2016 and 50% of last year. That's what our department heads can do. I know we've got a trial, but I think what we need to do is cut as close to the bone as we can. And then if there are some things that come up, we can use PILT instead of the CDs to help with some of those costs. We leave in the litigation fund, we leave in the deputy county attorney, we remove the secretary, and, if Corey wants to negotiate with, there's 2 pages there, one of each. Then I think he can either negotiate with Kirk or utilize his current staff to pick up some of that slack, or do it himself. Again, just like some of the rest of us do. So I think that's it on the general fund. Any questions, anything I missed, Debbie? Or Doug?
So, kind of to sum it up, to get general fund, we've added revenue where we can, and have people keep 10% of their expenditures kind of thing. Are you suggesting that Pilt infuse up to that 92, 93 to get it an even 0 to start with?
Here's what I'm suggesting, and this is only if only as a whole package, so I'm not suggesting any pieces here. Along with everything else we've talked about, to the extent we need it, we use PILT to bring us to 0 reserves, to balance us. We maintain the $100,000 litigation fund, that's where it's at.
Okay.
That's enough for homicide. We go ahead and continue to fund the $75,000 for the deputy county attorney. And to the extent that we need to infill with PILT, we do to 0, but with the agreement of if there's more that's needed, Corey can come talk to us and we can negotiate.
And secretary, just the 1 day with the intent of Kelsey.
That's it. That's it. There's, and then, I think, yeah, I think that's it, for the general fund. Mike, what do you think? It's a
Well,
pretty simple package for all this paperwork.
I think that, you know, if we hit these revenues like you were talking about, and people can actually work on cutting their expenditures and pay attention to their budget, I think we're okay with most of this stuff. I see a need for that other secretary in that legal office, just because going to district courts last week and look at the pile of paper that people have on a single case, on a simple case. I hate to see the amount of paper we're gonna generate on this case. So I don't know, you know, I think that we have to be cognizant of the fact that we might have to end up with some kind of more secretarial help there. What is the condition with Nicole's 32 hours? Why doesn't Nicole work 40? Because we don't have that to fund the position, or does she not want to work 40? Would she work 40 for the duration of this trial to maybe do some clerical stuff as far as filings and stuff and organizing some of that stuff that wouldn't require the paralegal or the legal expertise? And then also another part of that might be that have her push these grants more. I mean, spend just 1 day pushing grants. Say, you know, this grant is available to this office at this time. And I think the thing is that we say, you know, here's the deal, if you're not gonna apply for these grants, and you're not gonna make an effort to get more money that's not coming directly from our taxpayers, then I don't know why we should make the effort to give you more money to run your department.
I
I mean,
agree.
if there's money out there that's available, whether you like it or not, then you need to go apply for the money. Because if we're gonna completely tax every system, and everybody else is paying a price, and he's not applying for a grant, or Win and him aren't applying for grants, but everybody else is taking a cut or a freeze because we have to fund them more. The other departments don't have the opportunity to get grants. They do have the opportunity to get grants.
Yeah.
So I think if we could get Nicole to work, even if she, I mean, get her to push the grants more and tell these guys, you need to start applying for grants. And then also, if we have to, we could make Nicole available for some hours of filing or arranging some stuff with the amount of paperwork they're gonna have involved. And maybe there's not gonna be that much paperwork, but for me, if you look at files and when they're in court, you're gonna have a dolly cart to haul that stuff into court in this murder trial. And I don't see how that's gonna get generated without maybe having that extra secretary, unless,
I think something that needs to be looked at too is, I mean, like we've looked at, going to daily time cards, I looked at getting a scanner, we looked at doing some things. Are there ways that you can streamline what you're doing right now with people you have to save some time? Cause I don't doubt that they'll probably have more time that they're gonna have to devote to, doing stuff related to the case. That is probably just a given, but are there ways that they can, be a little bit more efficient with what they're doing to free up that time? They have a lot of, programs and things like that, structure in what they do. Are they utilizing all of that? Just would be something to maybe look into to see if there's a way, because there's sometimes things that they don't realize. Oh, well, this could be done a lot easier if you did this, or, this is kind of an unnecessary step, or you can combine these two, something, you know what I mean? I think it'd be worth to kind of look and see if there's some time saving that could be gained there that they could then use
yeah.
to take on the whatever additional time commitment they're gonna have from the trial, just to see if they can find that. That way you can utilize the people you have the most and see, and then only if you just, can't then go with, extra, but try to do the most you can with who you have.
Yeah,
And
To
just see.
illustrate Michelle's point, that research that we just signed a claim for $99, for Corey to use a hiring company that specializes in deputy county attorneys. The amount of time it was to go through that, the amount of time to do the claim, the amount of money, honestly, all that research could have been done in a 15-minute email. An email sent out to the Association of County Attorneys. We have it with Mako, you have it with the clerks and the treasurers. It goes out to every single county attorney in the state, and what happens is they send back answers. You compile all that information, and it would take you 5 minutes to write the email. As the information comes in, it's 30 seconds here and there, put it together, and then you've got what you wanna do. I think what Michelle just said is exactly, it illustrates that waste of time and money. One of the things, I think if we had two people serving as Corey's secretary, that would be confusing and convoluted for him. I think maybe what we do is if he wants to utilize Kelsey for 16 hours a week for the duration of the trial, he said that he talked to Kirk. Kirk was fine with that, but Kirk was nervous he wasn't gonna get her back. If we have the same contract with him in writing, that at the end of the trial, she goes back to working for Kirk for 32 hours, and the 8 hours is, if needed, with him. That way he has a secretary for 16 hours that already knows the ropes. Kirk has the assurance that he'll be getting his clerk back. Then we have one person doing all of that secretarial part.
so she would be primarily assigned to that deputy attorney.
No, she'd be assigned to Corey for 16 hours per week and then 24 to Kirk. She's already on the payroll, it's just a difference of those 8 hours, and it's just for the duration of the
Of that
Barris
trial.
trial. Yeah. What do you think about
I
that?
think that would be reasonable.
Okay. As far as Nicole goes, I think that's a great idea. And I think it might be helpful, as we've already had some grants that she applied for and just didn't get accepted by this county. I think it would be helpful for us to have maybe a monthly, these are the grants that are out there, this is the interest by these departments, this is what she's working on. And these are the grants that are, just not even being pursued for whatever reason. I think that's important for the entire county to know. We're leaving an awful lot on the table, and the easy answer is for people to just come to the commission and say, well, give it to us out of the general fund. You guys just give us the money. Well, we don't have the money to just give it to
No.
everybody. It's a finite resource.
And I think that if we take that and use that during this trial, and once we get done with the trial, if we can keep people on that track, it's gonna be a lot easier to try to fund other stuff down the road.
Correct.
But I think that other thing that we need to stress is to all the department heads and elected officials is that you need to pay a lot of attention to your budget. You need to shut your windows, you need to wear sweaters to work, you need to turn your computer off. You need
Yeah.
to turn your paper over and print on it twice. Whatever you can save, you're gonna have to save, because if we don't hit these revenues, we're in trouble.
Yep,
And you need to try to hit these revenues.
yep. And find more, which they're out there. Valley County is the example of finding revenue. We just copy them.
Mhm.
So, one of the things that I would also like to talk about with the general fund is the deputy county attorney. I don't know if you were here, when Harold and Eric were here, you were not, it was right before the meeting. The average number of days that a person is going from conviction to sentencing has grown astronomically, because they're just not getting through our court systems. It's either 218 or 280. Do you guys
Said
remember?
280.
218 days from the time a person's convicted to when they're sentenced. So they're on our dime as the county during that time. John Wright was 8 months. We have an agreement with Corey that will keep the deputy on for that additional 280 days after conviction.
After conviction, prior to sentencing.
Right. I think we need to make that more of a 30 days to be determined. If they are putting together information for the sentencing, then we can negotiate that. But to just have somebody on our payroll, when that person is just sitting next door in the Huskow waiting to be sentenced, I don't think that's responsible on our part. Once they're convicted, that's where really most of the work stops. There might be a little bit with sentencing, but it's really just waiting on the judge and the district court process to get their job done. It's no longer county attorney's job. So,
I have a question.
yes,
I sat through that, and I thought Corey said that he was gonna do the trial. The deputy county attorney was gonna handle all the civil and other stuff.
right.
Well, if he's gonna handle all the civil and other stuff, when the trial's over, can't Corey shift back and do the,
That's exactly my point, yeah.
I don't see one. I mean, I would agree with the 30-day, because immediately after that, after the, in between whatever, the conviction to the sentencing, the first 30 days, you're probably gonna have some paperwork in there, but after the first 30 days, there's no reason to have that person sit here for another 6 months, because Corey should be wrapped up with that case. Other than, like I said, small paperwork, and at that point, that deputy attorney should be allowed to, we should be able to keep him for the 30 days, and then if we get to another point, like at the end of the, just prior to sentencing, we might have to bring him back for a week or so.
Right,
But I don't see any sense in keeping him for 218 days,
I'm with you. 280.
280.
280, yeah, 280, what you said.
I used 218 last week and was corrected. That's a big difference.
That's like a year.
It's almost a year.
Yeah, I think that we just cut that to a 30-day obligation after the trial. And then whatever, like if we have to bring him in 2 weeks before sentencing because we've got a whole bunch of paperwork something to do, I don't think I'd have a problem with it at that point. But to keep him for a year makes no sense.
All right, good, I agree with that. There's also one piece of revenue that I had forgotten about, and that is, we have just acquired a building, the county has. We are actually giving that for use to a private business. We should be able to collect some rent from that. We have a rent and lease line item. So that will be some more revenue that we should be able to show, whatever market rate is in Townsend, I
The
don't know.
staff's old
Mhm.
place.
Yeah. I've heard it's $5 a square foot. I don't know, do you know, Mike, as a contractor, what the
No,
going
I
rate
don't
for
know.
rental space
Is it
is?
storage or is it
It's the building right next door.
The clinic,
Yeah,
Dr.
what?
Campbell's clinic.
Oh,
that should have some rent attached, which would help our revenues. We're just waiting to hear back from Corey on that, and we need to get those answers. But we'll have a,
You could ask how much Dr. Trapp paid for her office space down there on Broadway.
Yeah.
Whoever she rented
is
from.
that Marcia?
Give me an idea.
Yeah, I think Marcia has
Is
that
Marsha?
building.
Give me an idea what it was,
Marcia would know.
yeah.
Well,
Yeah, and I don't, I think that would be a good idea, even if we have to, if we set it and we find out we're way low, some is better. And you know, it's the same thing with the ambulance building, we're over there paying power, and you got people in there 3 nights a week, they aren't paying nothing, they're going in there for nothing. So they should be getting paid, they should have to pay a fee too. And you know, and I guess that's really none of our business, but the other, well, I guess it is our business.
it is.
We're
yeah.
providing a cleaning service over there. Whether it's Allison and Tammy, or whether it's our janitorial people go over there for like $200 a month, and we don't get nothing out of that. So those people that are coming in there at night, they should be paying a fee on that. Same with the power, if they're not gonna pay the power, then we'll shut it off. Instead of, because what she does is, and I understand, it, she turns the thermostat up when somebody's coming in there, how many times do they turn it down when they leave? Probably never.
Well, that's not a very energy efficient building, so it's just,
Well, and that's what I'm trying to work on that, but you know, the thing is that you just, if we went in there, it may cost us $6,000 or $7,000 to insulate it, but you're gonna get that back in about 2 years. If it comes in at that.
Yeah,
And then the other part of that is Wynn's paying $50 a day for a vehicle, for storage. When there's space over there to put 2 or 3 vehicles in there, if they clean out that storage. And that would help his budget too,
absolutely, that adds up,
paying $3,000 a month to store 2 vehicles.
right. Yeah. So, I have a meeting, can we meet again at 1?
Yeah.
Or 1 o'clock-ish?
What day is this?
Tuesday or
Tuesday.
tomorrow morning, because Debbie leaves at 1:30. We should talk about district court and claims process, and I think that's it. Public safety's looking balanced at this point.
So do we wanna meet this afternoon, or you wanna meet tomorrow morning at 8? Cause we got WWC coming in at 9.
that's next week.
What's that?
That's next week.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is.
Why do you? Fine. So what do we have tomorrow then?
I think it was just some of the budget
Just the budget,
budget
yeah.
stuff.
Yeah, I don't see why we can't just do that tomorrow.
Okay. All right,
And your agenda for tomorrow is public comment, community update, approved minutes, COS review, and solidify countywide budget.
Okay, and that's at 10?
Correct.
Okay.
let me just give you this before we go. That's kind of the same thing, and you can see on the second line here, the personnel. Again, that's far higher than the COLA. Last year COLA was 1%. This year COLA was 2.5.
Okay.
This is an increase in personnel hours.
Okay.
And we're gonna have to figure out, either she's gonna have to find more revenue, or she's gonna have to find operations to put into personnel. It's, the reason she's not balanced is because she's heavy on an area that she's not funding, that's personnel.
Yeah, see, I don't know why you can't. The grant would take care of all of this, one grant.
Right, now I don't know of any district court grants, but I'm sure that there are some. I will tell you, I know for sure there's a grant that would pay for our deputy, 100%. And I know that there's a grant that would pay for Corey to have a secretary, 100%. That could then be full-time. I don't know about district court, but I do know that the Valley County, which is Glasgow, wrote a grant a couple years ago, I've said this before. They went to the Board of Crime Control and said, hey, we've got an idea. Board of Crime Control said, you put together a proposal, we'll make a grant. They did. They ended by a grant funding a drug prosecutor and 2 drug detectives. Why can't we be as creative as Valley County? And so, not always grants, you know, there are other avenues to make us whole. But there are grants out there, and we're just not even attempting many of them.
Well, that's the
need to.
thing, when they're out there, you're not even attempting, that's a lot far worse than not even been failing to get them.
Absolutely, yeah. I don't know, you have this one too, right, on the county attorney numbers?
I think I have
With where we're at, Toole County has a wind farm. They have a far higher valuation than we do. I don't know if I put it in here. Oh, yeah, I did. Toole County has a valuation of $22.5 million last year.
Yeah.
We had about half of that, and their total FTE in the county attorney's office is 2.5.
Because
We're
wind
going-
farms don't commit crimes.
Probably. Yeah, they've got Highway 2 though, don't they?
What?
They've got Highway 2,
Glasgow
don't they?
is, they have a fair amount of crime over in that area.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just, we're going from 3.5 to 5 FTE, that's double what Lane County has, and they're our same valuation, and they've got Highway 2 and a bunch of crime, we've just gotta get sustainable. I'd
We
like
are
to
not
fund-
unique in our crime situation
No,
as a county.
no. I remember in high school, we used to say, oh, the crime in Havre is worse than anywhere else in the state. Then my sister started teaching in Shoto. The crime in Shoto is worse than anywhere else in the state. My brother moved to Missoula. The crime in Missoula is worse than anywhere in the state. Guess what my sister says now about Bozeman, where she lives? The crime in Bozeman is worse than anywhere in the state. And that's just my measly little family.
Well, where there's people, there's bound to be issues.
Yeah,
And the more people, the more issues.
Well, that's the
Sure.
guy asked me at the fire hall, he said, how come all the calls are in Townsend? All the police calls, I go, where do you think all the people live in Broward County? Well, yeah, I guess, but I mean, that's kind of logical, really, other than maybe the junction down there.
Because when you live out by yourself, you don't have other people around you to get in trouble with.
Yeah, exactly.
right.
Unless you're really stupid, you get in trouble with yourself.
Go fight a cow and who wins?
Okay, so Mr. Vice Chair, are we adjourned?
Yes, we are adjourned
At what time?
at, let's see, I'm 10 minutes fast, so it's, I don't know, it's 11:37, I believe.
Okay, close enough.
Did I share that one with you? Oh, and here's district court.
You get all of this?
These are their in